Hi, Destiny Squad, Destiny's Angels, and Destiny Family. Oh, my face look a bit shiny. Wow. I don't know if it's shiny or it's just that I'm glowing. Okay, quite recently, a video was circulated on social media of a teacher making some remarks to a particular student. In this video, I'll be sharing the audio of the remarks that the teacher actually made to the student, actually in Jamaica. You may have heard about it. So one, I'll be sharing the audio. Two, I'll be sharing a reaction audio as well that some people have made after seeing the video itself. Also, we'll be looking at whether or not it is time for, to implement a suitability assessment for aspiring teachers. But before I actually go into that, this evening, this morning, this afternoon, I want to actually welcome everybody who will be seeing this video. So welcome to the people who are actually on their way to work, on their way home, people who are already home. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and hello to the unemployed, the employed, and the retired. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, to the old subscribers, to the new subscribers as well. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel and you have gotten to this point of the video, I just want to say, hit that subscription bell. And while you are at it as well, first, hit the subscription button. And next to that subscription button, you will see that little bell. Hit that bell so that you will be notified whenever I actually post a video. Okay? So that's it. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to play the audio of the remarks that the teacher made to the student. For those who don't understand Patois, what I'm going to do afterwards is that okay, so I know that that was not very clear. And also, if I'm not mistaken, I could see where my laptop was reconnecting. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to play it one more time. So just bear with me, 35 seconds. Okay. So what I'm going to say this afternoon I actually look online and I could see that I've learned two things. I've learned that the teacher in question was suspended perhaps yesterday. I also learned that he is actually an ex-soldier as well. I also looked at the comments that were under the notification that he was suspended. And some people, these were some of the comments. First, for those who did not understand what was being said, this gentleman, this teacher, was, I would say he was frustrated. But because prior to what I have played, the part before, what happened was that I could hear students laughing, right? The teacher actually was chasing the student outside of the classroom as well. He was running around. So what he actually said, for those who don't understand Patois, is that he has actually, and I'm going to use the word for Facebook purposes, I'm going to say he has actually deleted people already. And that he had no problem, he had no qualms about deleting people again, right? So he was saying to this student as well, you are easy to die because I don't like certain type of stuff, right? So he's saying he doesn't like anything with seed, allegedly, or what could be implied was that he did not like men, that he was, implying that he's straight, he's a straight guy, right? Okay, so like I've said, I actually looked at some of the comments that were under the notification on Instagram, and that was from the Jamaica Observer. So some of the comments read that he acted out of frustration, that he was provoked, he wanted to stand his grounds, teachers are not being paid enough for the things that they have to deal with in the classroom. It is not easy to teach 20 to 30 students. Teachers are not trained to deal with undiagnosed behavioral issues. He is an ex-soldier and certain things come naturally to him. This was a cry for help. What do you think? Now I am going to play the reaction to, I actually showed 3 people the video itself. And this, what you're going to hear now, are the audio reaction to the video itself. So here we go. And I must apologize in advance if anything is not clear. Hopefully you'll be able to pick up what is being said. Here we go.
From this video, you can see, if you look at the form of the guy, he first engages in a quite verbal situation. People say a lot of things when it comes to being verbal, but the fact that he stated that he's killed someone before, and you can see the form where he's standing, he seems ready, he's ready for it. And the fact that he even starts chasing around the kid shows even more that he doesn't really care that he loses his job. I don't think he was thinking about maybe how would it be like if somebody else said that to my kid? Because if somebody said that to someone else's kid, I'm pretty sure he would be really angry. And I can see where he's coming from, but the way he handled the situation is not the way he should. And with any job, the first thing you always need is patience. If you can't be patient, then what's the point of even working there? Kids learn from everything, and that kid could be left traumatized for the rest of his life. He's been chased around by the classroom. Words can spread saying that because he admitted to killing someone. And the question is, if he's killed before, what would make him not to kill again? And if he would kill again, that's pretty crazy. But I think that losing his job is not enough because he's admitted to killing someone. And the law around there may not be as hard as around the UK, but committing murder is committing murder, and he's admitted to it. So therefore, he has to face the criminal prosecutions of committing murder. But before I have anything else to do, I think that the system, that the employee system that he used, I think was not very great. I think he should have had a bit more background checks. although he may not look like someone who, anybody can do anything. You can't say that somebody won't do this thing just to get rid of something. He said he would do it. He threatened the kid to kill him. And he seems like, from the video, it seems like he's actually going to kill him. He chased him around the whole school. Basically, he chased him out of the classroom. That's pretty bizarre. So I think, he should, maybe not prison, but maybe it should be they should really look into what he actually said, because I don't think what he said is acceptable. What him admitted is pretty bizarre, but in the first place, he shouldn't have even been hired. His attitude towards the job is even worse. You can see the way he's shouting at the kid. Obviously, kids, when you're young, you take a lot of things into heart. And that kid, that kid may want to actually end up doing something back to him. And, it could cause problems. You never know, he could have, maybe if no one was recorded, he could have killed the kid there and then. And I think people like this shouldn't be hired to a job. Because kids pick up everything, but also at the same time, this teaches you it's not always good to say anything to anyone. Because you don't know the people out there, you know what people are like, you don't know what people have done. Anybody would do anything to possess in power. Anybody could kill someone just to possess power. I feel like he was just hungry for power, just to show them that he's the real boss of the class. Yeah, so what he done is not acceptable. I think he should have some criminal stuff. Maybe likely even go to prison. That's what I have to say.
Okay, so that was the first reaction. If you notice, I am actually speaking softly because I actually turned up the volume on the laptop just for this purpose so that I can play. So that was one. Here is another person's reaction.
One of the things that made an impact on me when I was watching the video is that the children in the classroom all looked very young, and younger kids tend to be pretty observant. They're still learning about the world around them. Therefore, I feel that the way that he portrayed himself as an aggressive older adult, I think was very bad for the kids' development. And the fact that they were recording also showed that they felt threatened in a way where they had to record the act and what was happening. I also feel like the fact that he admitted to killing someone, not even just in front of children, but just in general, is a very serious. It's very serious for him to say that, and also shows that he doesn't have remorse for what he did. The way that he phrased it was as if he was proud of what he had done. I don't think that this type of person should be working with children. And I also think the physical act of him chasing a student is a very bad way to mentor kids, just because most educational establishments use verbal ways of mentoring rather than physical. So I think that he didn't really fit into the educational system very well. And another thing that made an impression is that he's the older person in this situation. Therefore, he shouldn't be reacting in this way. He should realize that the way that kids think is different to the way adults think. So he should have actually been a lot more patient with them and maybe just made a comment, but not physically chase the student. I also think that these sort of outbursts and aggressive behavior can be picked up earlier on before it reaches the stage. Therefore, I feel like the hiring process of this teacher wasn't conducted properly, and as a result, something like this happened, which is quite serious. And I do think that the punishment of him losing his job is just, because he shouldn't be working with kids if he's got these sort of mental issues. But I also do feel like they should have taken kind of more precaution, and they should have seek legal justice for what he did and what he said. They could have also investigated into his background and things that he did before the job, just because this is the type of person that could be dangerous in society, not just in a classroom.
Okay, So I have one more. You'll be hearing from one more person. And afterwards, we look closely into, what this has revealed and what steps may be taken going forward.
My take on the video is that the teacher, he showed no type of conscience or humility when he was making the remarks that he was making about learning the student. It shows that in his personality that he clearly comes on quite strong. And I think whatever may have happened between him and the student, even if it was a serious situation or a situation, he still should have written the student the way he did. And he made a comment about safe heights from people, which I think should have been noted or into consideration. And just the way his attitude and states that he's not mentally fit to be around children, because children can be quite annoying and they could probably test your patience. And he has tested enough where he chased around the student and that he actually wanted to go kill the student, and he showed no type of humiliation when someone's recording him. He didn't stop or say put the phone down or anything like that. He just continued. And students around him were all really confused and really confused.
Okay, so you have heard all three, and so that I can speak as I want to in my normal tone, I'm going to turn down the volume. Okay. So I must repeat that after this, that only this evening, when I actually checked on Instagram, I learned that this person, is an ex-soldier one, and that he was suspended. So we are going to look closely into the fact that he was suspended. Does it mean that he was allowed to actually continue at the school after actually doing this, and that he was only suspended later? Right? So we're going to look into it because we know that, a lot has been going on. And to be honest with you, you never can tell. Perhaps this happening will actually change certain things. So going back to the reactions that we have listened to, I want to know, do you actually agree with some of the things that were said? I want to say, would you agree that the teacher lost control of his anger? Would you agree with that? And I've written down some questions from the reaction and also just by observing what has happened. Should he be investigated for what he said about deleting people before? Could his action have been a cry for help? And does it reflect the stressful situation that teachers are working in? Was the school or the Ministry of Education negligent in not at least suspending the teacher immediately pending investigation? Would you agree that the teacher went too far when he went on to chasing the students around the classroom and out of the classroom? This brings us to the next question. Is it time for there to be a suitability test as well for aspiring teachers? A lot of people will tell you that teaching is not for the faint-hearted. It is not the easiest of jobs. And also you will hear that teaching colleges, universities don't actually prepare you for what you actually meet, what you have to deal with in the classroom, right? So yes, when you go to university, you get the professional skills, you get the technical skills, you learn how to actually become an expert in the field that you are going to teach. But there are certain behaviors that you actually meet up on that is not taught in the classroom. And those are some of the things that we are going to look at. It is very important that actually the personality of the teacher, because believe you me, based on what you're going to meet upon, certain qualities, certain characteristics has to be in place, right? Because when you look into it, when you go into the classroom, your role, you have to be a doctor, you're a counselor, and I've written down a peacekeeper. You have to act like mother, father when the time comes. And I mean, based on the situations that you encounter, there are times when you have to take on the role of different people. So sometimes you have to be the counselor, the peacekeeper, the mentor, the mediator, the career advisor, the motivator, the problem solver. So a lot of teachers will tell you that they have to actually just move into different roles based on the needs of the student. For that reason, I believe, and I don't know if you would agree with me, that probably it is time to actually, reveal to people, probably it's time to actually check if someone is suitable for the classroom before you actually say, yes, I accept you onto the teaching program. At the same time, I know that people would not want to just refuse people from joining the profession. But do remember that if you're going to be a soldier, if you're going to be a police officer, they actually check for certain things to determine your suitability. Based on the fact that it's a different generation that we are dealing with, perhaps it is time to not just check if the person has the pre-qualifications, the pre-requirements before actually accepting them onto a teacher's course. Because the qualities and the characteristics that is necessary for you to be effective in the classroom, to actually get things going, are you need to be patient. I cannot stress that enough. You need to be patient because, of course, people will press every button. And if you are not a patient person, you will react. So you can look at it, you can see how this teacher has reacted, right? So we need to know all of that before. So patience, person needs to be patient, understanding, influential, empathic, a good listener. The person should be a person who should be able to command respect. Because you see, there is a difference. In the classroom, especially, it is the same elsewhere, but in the classroom, look, there is a big difference between commanding respect and demanding respect. Because if you have to demand respect, it means that you're trying to get it by force. And if you're going to try to get it by force, I can tell you, it's not going to last. The same issue that you have the day before, you probably will go to another class and you have another issue. You have to be someone who they can see as a role model to a certain extent. Calm, friendly, be able to engage with students. You need to be adaptable, have self-control, approachable. You need to be firm but fair. And I'm going back to say you need patience. From what I have seen, yes, in the UK, I teach young adults. And from what I've seen, the video more or less seem like a secondary school video or like it's a high school or secondary school situation. So some people will say in Jamaica, I should say as well, while I was in Jamaica, I actually taught at the secondary level. But I'm going to be honest with you, I'm talking about 20 years ago. And nobody needs to tell me that what is happening now, that, things have changed, in that what is happening in the classroom, the type of indiscipline that teachers are dealing with. Nobody needs to tell me that 20 years ago it was not so, because I clearly realize that we are dealing with a different generation. And perhaps that's why it is even more important to actually prepare people when they want to get into teaching. Don't wait until they get into teaching and then they are hit, they are traumatized, right? When they actually see what they have to deal with. Perhaps we need to prepare them before. I'm not talking, I know that certain preparation goes on in the university, in the college, but a lot of that is what I call book knowledge. The real life situation, nobody prepares you for that, and perhaps nobody can fully prepare you for it. That is why where the characteristics and qualities actually needs to be taken into consideration. Because if certain things don't come to you naturally, right? If you're an angry person, if you're not a patient person, then you are going to react when actually your buttons are pushed. So I believe that now perhaps it is time to actually start doing things differently. I should also say, I also that there are certain behavioral issues, behavioral demands that some students come with, that I'm not sure if things have changed in Jamaica, but I know that it was only when I migrated that I started learning about special needs to a certain extent, where you realize that everybody is not the same. In that, yes, the students will come to you from the outside, they actually look the same. And you might be tempted to actually expect the same behavior from all of them. But there is something that is known as special needs that you cannot see. Something that requires something that will cause the person to require more support. It will cause the person to behave a certain way that they are not able to control. So we are talking about, we learned about like autism, dyslexia, and there are quite a number of them, right? Special needs, and that will influence how the student behaves. So sometimes when we look into certain things and we are saying we're saying, oh, this student doesn't have any manners, this student needs to be taught a lesson. This student is disruptive. Sometimes it is because there are undiagnosed situations going on there. So another thing that perhaps it's time to do, perhaps it's time to actually get some assessments going, right? I believe that the government, the Ministry of Education, needs to set in place a system where students can be tested. So, for example, if home notices that the child from an early age behaves a certain way, is always disruptive, they can actually say it to the teacher. Or if the teacher notices something, then they will be able to refer them for the proper assessments, because there are certain assessments that can be done to determine, whether or not the person has special needs, so that the right support can be given in the classroom. One thing about, it's not saying that like in first world country, you don't actually have indiscipline. But one thing that is in place that I am not sure if it exists in third world countries, I'm not sure if it exists in classrooms, is where you actually have support. So a support is like an assistant teacher. So for example, if you actually have someone who has been assessed and and you realize that they have special needs that will actually require more support, that more support is given, then you need to have someone like what we would call some schools they call it the person. Here in the UK, you can be called a technician, a support staff, or it's just what we say, an assistant teacher. So on top of the main teacher being in the classroom, because let us face it, one teacher alone teaching 20 to 30 students will not be able to give that one-to-one support that would be necessary if the student actually needs, special support. So these are some of the things where, some of us, it was only after when we migrated, then we're realizing that, oh, some of the students who we thought were, what we call in Jamaica, bad broke, actually is not bad broke. It's just that they learn differently and that they have special needs that is undiagnosed, perhaps undiagnosed because the system is not in place to actually, conduct the assessments so that the person can get the proper support, so that home can understand why the person is behaving that way and school can understand why the person is behaving that way and actually put things in place as a coping mechanism, right? Because these students will actually need extra support. So when you look into it, another thing, when you look into it, I am sure that the teacher is not a bad teacher, right? I've noticed, like the comments that I've said, I've seen where some people said that he was provoked, Some people said that it was a cry for help. If it was a cry for help, did the school fail the teacher? Did the Ministry of Education fail the teacher? Who is to be blamed? Not really blamed, because I don't like to say that people have to be blamed. But in saying that, why I said that, look, if this incident happened, clearly the teacher, you could see that he was worked up. And if he was worked up, the least that he needs is a breather away from the classroom. So if he was allowed to actually continue his normal duties and only recently was suspended, then of course somebody needs to actually rethink how they actually address these situations. Yes, perhaps, the principal did not know how to handle it. This is something that, we are always learning. Life is all about learning. So if this happens one time, perhaps if similar situations come up, then of course, we'll learn how to handle it. And I'm not saying, just remember what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the teacher is bad. What I'm saying is that what I think is that the reaction was not the best. What I'm also saying was that, look, if he got angry, it meant that he actually lost control. Perhaps he actually has lost the respect of the students as well. So that is why we have to be careful. We have to do almost do a personality test, because that's the only way that teachers will be better prepared, right? And that's the only way you will get the people who are right for the classroom in the classroom. And of course, I understand that, look, not many people want to be teachers. So there is a shortage, and perhaps, we are just happy when people have chosen to become teachers. The last thing you want is for people to just choose to be teachers because that's the only thing that was going on for them. Because if that's the case, If there is no real connection, no real love, right, for the profession, then you are just going to have frustrated teachers. So you need some advisors before people go into teaching, because that's the only way that you're going to get teachers who can actually cope, who can actually deal with certain situations. And of course, I know that the generation that we're dealing with, it is different. And I've seen videos of students misbehaving as well. But teachers are teachers for a reason, right? If we are going to be the authoritative figure in the classrooms, then we have to act accordingly. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure if you would agree with me when it says the question, going back to the question, is it time for there to be a suitability assessment for aspiring teachers? For me, I am going to say yes, it is full time for there to be some sort of assessment. I'm also going to say Ministry of Education, it is also full time for there to be an official system where all students who are suspected to actually have special needs, for there to be an assessment system where all of them can actually access the assessment to actually determine whether or not they actually have special needs. One, know what to expect, and also access the full support that is needed, and also have trained staff to actually deal with certain situations. So that's what I want to say. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you have gotten to the end as well, I'm just going to remind you to subscribe, drop a like on the video as well. Thank you. Take care of yourselves, guys, and also enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you. Bye.